So Jamie, thank you for that great reading of the Old Testament, because in fact it's from the Old Testament lesson that I want to preach today, to preach about the challenge it is for us to serve God, to put God first and resist worshiping other gods. Now, my suspicion is that it's always been a challenge for all human beings to live authentically and to do what they say is important to them. So I began by thinking about the other gods in my life, the things that I worship besides God, the things that I pay attention to in my life. So just recently, my husband Stephen, who's sitting in the back row, accused me of loving my phone more than him. Has anyone? He says it's true. I always seem to be looking at it. First thing in the morning, I'm checking it. Last thing at night, I crawl into bed and I pick it up, and I'm a little befuddled by all of this technology because I'm not actually sure if I actually love the phone or I love what the phone is telling me. And half the time I don't really like the things I pull up, but somehow I too, like perhaps all of us, I've fallen prey to the addiction of this technology. They say they've actually sort of arranged it so that I get addicted to it. And so I'm trying to learn how to not worship my phone. So, it reminds me of this recent cartoon in the New Yorker. So you won't be able to see it really well, but I'm going to describe it to you. There are 4 cowboys, and they're out on the range, and it looks to be dusk, and you can see the cattle in the background. And so they're gathered around, almost like scenes that you've seen in movies or that you've seen in pictures, sort of huddled around a fire. But oddly, there's no fire there. But they're sitting on these rocks, and 3 of them are sort of hunched over looking down. And the 4th one is sitting to the side, and he's got a knife out, and he's whittling a stick. And below where he's whittling, there is accumulating sort of wood shavings. And so one of the 3 guys who's with the group that's looking down looks over and says to him, "Have you lost your phone again, Rusty?" Our cell phones have even replaced the camaraderie of a campfire and all of that. It also reminds me of a story from Haiti. So Taiwan, in the late 80s, decided that they were going to loan some money and some people and some equipment to Haiti, to their Ministry of Agriculture. And so a team came from Taiwan, and they ensconced themselves on the first floor of the Ministry of Agriculture, and they brought some computers with them, and they got set up on the ground floor, and they were all what they thought. They were all working hard and building relationships with their compatriots there. But after about 5 months, there was this mob of peasant farmers who angrily stormed the Ministry of Agriculture, broke into the first floor, and smashed all their computers. And so everyone was befuddled. And when the mob settled down and the authorities came and they were asked why they caused all that damage, the disgruntled Haitian peasants said that these Chinese were supposed to be coming here to help them and their government and pay attention to them, but all they were paying attention to was their TVs. The Haitians had never had seen computers before, so those monitors looked to them like TVs, and they were really angry that these Taiwanese Chinese were just hanging around all day watching TV. So, this is a chance for us to explore what's important to us. When we challenge ourselves to say, how do we serve God? Do we serve God? Do we put God first? It's a chance for us to ask ourselves, what do we care about most in this life? So I want you to be honest with yourself. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand or tell me your answers. There's no shame or blame in this. Think about what you give your attention to or your money to or your time. Stephen says I might care about my cell phone the most. Don't think about what someone else thinks about you. What do you care about? Take a moment. What do you care most about in life? At some level, do you care about yourself, your own health and well-being? If you do, then you're in good company, because you know that saying, if you have your health, you have almost everything. If you're a parent, maybe you care about a long life to finish raising your children or enjoy your grandchildren. Perhaps you care about how you look. Nothing wrong with that. So you exercise regularly and you eat well. Do you care about your house, your home, or your houses if you have more than one, or the land that you've acquired in your lifetime? Do you spend a lot of time dealing with it and managing it? Do you care about your level of education? Do you have a kind of pride in what you've achieved? Or maybe accumulation of money. Do you care about your net worth or your creature comforts? To what do you devote your time, talent, and treasure? And what about your neighbor? Do we care about our neighbor? You know, Scripture says it's a good idea. And who is our neighbor anyway? Those who live nearby and live at our same socioeconomic and educational level? Those who love what we love, value what we value, whose choices reinforce our own? Or do we care about our neighbors 15 miles away from here in Baltimore City, in neighborhoods where half the homes are boarded up and drugs are easily accessible on many corners, where a good education is very hard to find and a way out of poverty is just an elusive dream, where a hard day's work and sometimes night work too does not bring enough security, but instead requires mothers or fathers to risk their children's safety to meet the demands of a boss or a work schedule. We may think we care about our neighbors, but who do we understand our neighbors to be? Just the ones we agree with, the ones who live nearby us, the ones who are like us? Now, maybe you are like me, a little bit of a bleeding heart liberal, like Dorothy Day of the last century or Mother Teresa. You may be genuinely motivated by your faith, or think you are. Always caring for others is what you care about most in life, being sure to place others before yourself. Or perhaps, if you're honest with yourself, you might just be caught up in some internal competition that only God knows about, where you just want to be more Christian than the next guy. My friends, I think we are all in the same boat. Our Christian tradition, inherited from our Jewish brothers and sisters, invites us to forsake idols and false gods, to begin by looking beyond ourselves and to put God first, to serve God, love neighbor as self, and whatever our political persuasion or our ideological bent, whether we're rich or poor, in some ways, I think we are all the same. As faithful people, we simply fall short. Now, we may argue that isn't it enough that we care for our families, ourselves and our families, and that is honoring God. And we may exhaust ourselves by caring for others nearby or in far-flung places. We might give away a lot of money or build great monuments to God. We might do almost anything except pause at least once a day in silence or outside with words and practice putting God first, listening to God's voice, serving God by beginning the conversation of our days with the God who created us. In the Old Testament lesson today from Joshua, after entering the promised land, following 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, Joshua warns his people, God's people. Joshua knows how hard it is to fulfill the covenant to which God is inviting them. Lest you forget the guidance and the care and even the victory that God has provided for you, resolve now to place God first. Incline your hearts to the God of Israel and forsake other gods and serve the Lord. not out of duty, but genuinely out of gratitude. And the people answered Joshua, "Far be it for us that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods." But they did, and he did, and we do also. The idea is that we, like the Israelites, are called to serve God, not because we will feel better or be better, not because we'll build bigger churches, but to serve God out of gratitude, remembering to begin by acknowledging God's power in our lives and our creatureliness. In the good times and in the bad, we all have had a hard time expressing the natural gratitude that we are suspicious is actually due to the one who created us and recreates us day after day. As human beings, we fall prey to thinking our lives are about us, that we are in charge, that our successes are our own, and that our power is of our own making, forgetting God's legacy of goodness in our lives, moment after moment, day after day, and not really acknowledging God's power. We're all pretty much, we all end up caring most about ourselves and serving ourselves first, and maybe we'll serve God second. You know, the truth of this for Christians is never more evident than in the stories that we read and hear during Holy Week, wherein we are exactly like all the different players in the drama. We are the ones who yell, "Crucify him, crucify him." We are like the Jewish authorities of the time or Pontius Pilate, the ones who grasp for power out of fear. We are like the crowds who mock and sneer and scorn. We are the disciples who abandon Jesus and scatter. We are like the numbed Roman soldiers who hammer nails into living flesh, attaching a body to the cross, as if human force, political or physical, could maintain our power over others or silence the voices and the lives of those that threaten us. The irony is that we as Christians say that we believe God is the most powerful. In a few moments, we will recite the Creed, the Father Almighty. Like the Israelites of Joshua's day, we acknowledge what God has done for us, and we promise that we will not forget it, and that we will put the Lord first and serve the Lord. Instead, we fall short. We would like to begin with gratitude and put God first, but probably, if we are honest, God scares the hell out of us. Like that Old Testament lesson where those Israelites said to Joshua, "Oh yeah, we're going to serve the Lord," and then Joshua scares the hell out of them with the things about a jealous God and what it means to actually take seriously serving this Lord. So what was God up to in Holy Week? What did Jesus do that was so scary? Relinquished power. That's scary, isn't it? Emptied himself, taking on the form of a servant. Stood before accusers and remained silent except to claim a different power that flowed through love. Forgave, forgave, forgave. Even the greatest pain, fear, and abandonment, in the midst of that, Jesus followed through in hope and served God. God is a hard one to serve. Joshua said so. We watch it with Jesus' life. A hard one to put first. A hard one to care about most, because to do so demands that we might have to re-examine almost every facet of our lives. To do so means we cannot get away with cheap grace. To serve God, we have to overcome our fear and experience what looks like an alternative universe that goes against every fiber of our being. To serve God, we are invited to relinquish power and let God be the power, to empty ourselves and become servants, to stand when we must, speaking not to defend ourselves, but only to claim the power that flows through love, and forgive, and forgive, and forgive, and follow through in hope, trusting God. So now, I ask us all again, what do we care about most in life? Do we dare say, God? Amen.